Hi, everybody. This is Melody LeBaron with Transforming Space, Self, and Loss. And I'm here today for another Agents of Transformation interview, this time with my dear friend, Susannah Furr. And I can't wait to introduce you to Susannah. I've wanted to do this for a while. Susannah is a licensed professional counselor with over 30 years of experience in the healing arts. She is also an empowered solar priestess in my lineage. That was a fun experience to do together. She is a gene key guide and an agent for conscious evolution through Barbara Marx Hubbard, one of our greats. Susannah manages Oxford Healing Arts, a counseling practice in Oxford, Mississippi, with services that include counseling sessions, intuitive consultations, meditations, classes, workshops, and retreats. In addition, she holds public sound journeys using chant, drumming, and crystal singing bowls. When Susannah used to live in Asheville, I would go to Susannah for body work. The most amazing experiences of having crystal bowls placed on different parts of my body while she was playing them. Such a healing experience. So, Susannah, welcome. I'm so excited we're having this conversation.
I am too. I'm so glad you asked me. Thanks for asking me to be here.
Yeah.
Anytime we can talk is a wonderful time for me.
Yeah. So I asked you to come together today and talk about something that I feel like most women, especially in the Western world, are going to relate to. There's been an explosion of books, podcasts, interviews, um, essays, posts about narcissism. And I know you and I have both been impacted by narcissist personalities. We have found our own way to healing. And you and I share deep respect for some of the same literature on this. Dr. Ramani is one of them. But I'm wondering if we can talk today about how women can recognize when they might be in a relationship with a narcissist and what are their options.
Okay. Okay, so recognizing, all right. First of all, it would be never feeling, beginning to realize you don't feel safe around this person, like feeling you're walking on eggshells all the time. Never being certain about how they feel about you. Um, starting to feel controlled, like that you can't really make choices on your own, losing your independence. They also, you might just start to notice that you're spending less time with friends and family. And if you really look at that, you'll find that it's kind of their doing. They discourage it. They'll say, "Why are you going out? You don't need to go out." Or they'll even start to speak negatively about your friends and family, and you'll see that they start to drive a wedge between you and them, and that you're spending more time alone without your support system. Many signs, but I think that walking on eggshells, feeling controlled, never feeling really safe and secure in their love, and that you're always having to work for their approval, to work for the love, that you're not accepted for who you are. Those are a lot.
Yeah, those are the good red flags that we need to be looking out for. So one of the things I have noticed, and I want to check in with you to see if you, in your 30 years of counseling practice, if you see this tracking as well, is it feels to me like people who are highly empathetic, who are highly sensitive, are very often narcissists are attracted to them.
Yes. Yes, yes. Okay, so this is such a symptom. There's a book, it's called The Human Magnet Syndrome. Oh, and what's his name? It's at my other office. But it's a male psychologist who works, is all about, he works a lot with narcissistic recovery, abuse recovery. And there is this magnetic pull, not just from the narcissist end, but the empath is attracted to narcissists. This is something I learned in my experience, is that I find them attractive.
Mm,
And because there's this energy of, whether it's wanting, well, opposites attracting for sure, but also wanting to, but well, they come on very, very strong with love bombing. So if you're really in need and you want to feel this initially, someone who's making you so sure they feel love for you because they love bomb you in the beginning a lot. So narcissists I think they're attracted to empaths because we're so accommodating, and we are understanding, and we seek to understand what they're telling us, or who anyone is telling us, and that we're giving, we tend to give people more second, third chances when they because we understand, oh well, I know that they were abused as a child, so I get that they might have some issues, and so I'm gonna understand. And there's sometimes also in the impasse this wanting to help people. I mean, this desire to help others because you feel they're suffering. And so then we're like thinking we can actually make them better. Now,
right.
I think a lot of it is under the radar. We're not consciously thinking this. It
Right.
is a unconscious sort of match for our need to help other people. And they're
Yeah.
very needy, but they don't come on that way at first. They're needy because they have really kind of a hole in themselves. They don't have a sense of themselves. And so they're attracted to this impact, to us, because um, we'll be there for them. We'll listen, we'll empathize, we'll understand. And they love that because we will make people center stage in our lives.
Right.
We'll allow for that.
So if someone feels like, okay, those red flags you talked about earlier, I see some of these things happening. I don't like the way I feel. I don't like the fact that I'm now uncomfortable. If I'm loyal to my friends and family, then it feels, I'm made to feel disloyal to this partner. What do you recommend that a person do if they feel like, okay, I think this might be what I'm in? What's the next step?
Okay, well, probably you will have already been talking to them about what's going on. I really want to go see my people, or and arguments will ensue, and that's where you see the control coming out. Um, you will also feel, they can get, some of them can be very mean and nasty. There's different degrees of the way that they are. There's the covert, who is very under the radar. I mean, does not come right out and be nasty initially. I mean, well, for the most part, but they're super controlling, and they'll be cold and they'll pull back. And so anyway, these are more signs of that. But then there's the malignant one, very toxic person who will get abusive. So you might have already seen signs of abuse, where in terms of yelling at you, calling you names, when before you were like the most beautiful person in the world to them, put on a pedestal, and then they devalue you. There's phases that these relationships go through. So what do you do when you start to experience this? Well, I would say, find someone who's a therapist or a coach or somebody who works with this. Start looking at the plethora of YouTube videos, TikTok. Myself, I use YouTube a lot, and that's how I found out, like, that there is a huge problem going on, and that there is a huge recovery community that wants to support each other. So I would say, start to educate yourself about it. Look on your favorite social medias for people who talk about it. Um, And then find someone you can talk to who understands this, like a professional, uh, preferably, um, who's not going to try to tell you what to do, but who's going to help you work your way out of it. Um, so that's where I would start. And if you find yourself, the thing that can happen is domestic violence can occur. You might start to get into a situation where you become trauma bonded to this person. And trauma bond is a very hard thing to break. I myself experienced that. Um, so it's where your brain becomes addicted to the when they'll do there'll be an abusive episode, and then and then afterwards they're very sorry, and they're like, oh, and the love bombing will start again, and then you get addicted to that high that you get when they do it, but then of course the cycle comes back around again. So, and more it happens, the more it's sort of like the more you use it, the use like it's a drug, which it is because your brain's getting involved here, then the more addicted you become. So that's that can get complicated. And if there's trauma happening, then that means you really need the professional help, to someone who's trained in how to get out of these situations. Um,
And
so
I
yeah.
know that you have also, in addition to one-on-one like therapy,
Mhm,
as well as coaching sessions,
mhm,
you've also done groups. And, back 30 years ago,
mhm.
being in a domestic violence support group was a real big eye opener for me because I was able to see it was actually, no, it was longer than that. It was close to 40 years ago now. I was able to see women, wealthy women, in all with all their jewelry and lavish outfits, and impoverished women saying the same things, having experienced the same things. And the excuses that I had found myself making, um, when you hear those excuses from another person, all of a sudden you realize, oh no, I am not in a good situation, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's why, if you don't know anyone yet, the first thing that I would do is like, you look it up on YouTube. Just type in the search, narcissistic abuse, or am I with a narcissist? And you will find all these coaches on there talking about, here are all the signs. Yes, da da da, and then what you do, and other people talking about it. I experienced this. I'm going through this,
Right.
and I know that that helped me tremendously. And I was a therapist when I went through that. I mean, it's been, one that it was, I mean, I
15
got
years
out of
ago.
this toxic thing 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
I was 20 plus years at that point as a therapist. And, it doesn't, nobody is immune from this. You can know about it. Like, we were trained that anybody could be cured, that anybody can get better. And in a way that was not, except I did hear way back when, but narcissism, so people, sociopaths and psychopaths, probably not. So these are what they call the cluster B diagnoses, and the diagnostical statistical manual of, and these, just of diagnoses, psychological. These are, um, pathological. These are pathologies that cannot get better.
Right.
And can I talk about like the biggest blocks that we have, the hardest things that we have to overcome to
Oh,
get
absolutely.
ourselves out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of them, is thinking that here's the biggest thing that I realized, that we we hang in there we can hang in there with this person a really long time because we are not that way. We're empathic. We understand, and we're so understanding and loving. And because we are that way, we cannot understand how someone cannot be that way.
Right.
To
Right.
us, it just like our logical brains can't
No.
fathom. How can someone be so cruel and mean and nasty or cold and, isolating and just icy? So we just can't. And that's one of our biggest blocks is we keep thinking because we can't believe that somebody can be that way, then we don't realize I've got to get away from this person
And I
because they're
really
not.
believe that that's part of what keeps denial in place.
Yes, denial.
Yeah. Yeah. I,
Absolutely.
I definitely relate to that. My old self did not understand how
No.
someone could be that cruel
Yeah.
and do it deliberately.
Yeah.
Um, what are some of the other blocks to really coming out of denial
Mhm.
and moving forward, moving yourself to a place of safety and health
Right.
and,
Right.
empowerment?
I think that one of them is also not enough self-love. Um, because again, empaths are so other oriented, wanting to help others be better or happy. And then I think we can be in our end very codependent, the codependent of like, I've got to act in a way that will make this person feel better. And so it's usually we grow up that way. And when we're that way, we don't have, even if we don't have to put the label codependent on it, we can just say we don't have enough self love.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, the same author of the human magnet syndrome, sorry, I don't have his name, wrote a book later on called Self Love Deficit Disorder. And that he said, I'm changing the name codependent to self love deficit disorder.
Opposite. Wow.
And so that is the the major big block is that we don't have enough self love, and we're so oriented on that person to get that love from. And so again, it's kind of an attachment thing. If you've heard of attachment theory, it is part of that as well. When we're looking outside of ourselves the love, for love from another to define us and make us feel safe and secure, even if it's a healthy relationship, even if it's a good person who's not a narcissist, then we are setting ourselves up for problems and issues because we want to come into a relationship feeling secure within ourselves that we know we're lovable, we know we deserve a healthy relationship.
Oh,
And because we feel it for ourselves. And so um, that is the biggest block. That's what gets us into the relationship to start with,
yeah.
that and the empathy and all. Um, so then, and because they offer up so much love in the beginning, that love bombing, oh my gosh, it's just so over the top and so amazing. It's like being washed, and you become blissful about it because they provide so much of that. We think, I finally found that. And really, that is not real. They're just doing that to pull you in. Um, so when you really love yourself and somebody's doing that, you go, wait a minute, this is a little over the top here. This is
Right.
very top and moving so fast. And so I would say learning to love yourself, starting to finding, well, why don't I feel like I'm worthy? Doing the shadow work or doing this therapy work to clear that, what came from your childhood out of the way I do parts work with people. So inner child, like, um, and working with the inner critic that developed because you didn't learn how to. And initially, we need to get that love from the other, from our parents. We need that initially. Many of us don't get that. So then we come into adulthood lacking it, and then we're empathic and we meet this person who just pulls us in with all this love. So self-love is very, very key. And then it's much easier to break the trauma bond. And I would say that for me, while I was breaking the trauma bond, was learning to love myself more.
Yeah.
I was a therapist, but I didn't love myself enough. And
Right.
I hadn't built secure attachment to me
Right.
enough to not be a victim of this.
I was really lucky enough. I was married at 18 in 1976, had four children, and um, and my first husband um, was abusive, but I didn't have this information. I didn't have this context. And what I did have was the conditioning, the Mormon patriarchal conditioning that I needed to make this marriage work. And, my parents were reinforcing that. At one point, um, 5 years before the end of the marriage, my husband said, I don't love you and I don't love the kids. And I called my parents, and they were like, no, you can't come home. You have to make this marriage work, as if one person can do that. But anyway, eventually, when I was 30, he had an affair and filed for divorce. And my parents then, at that point, did take me and the four kids in. Well, I had, um, 3 years of that support group and counseling and fell in love with someone who was really good at what you were just describing, that love bombing. He didn't just love bomb me, he love bombed my parents and my kids. My parents and kids were begging me, except for one of my sons, begging me to marry him. And so fast forward, I was married to my second husband for 10 years and forced us into therapy, finally, forced us into therapy. And one of the things early on that I told the therapist is I don't want another divorce. I want this to work. Whatever we need to do, I want this to work. I don't want to be a single mother again. And I'd had another child with him who was still young. And I did not want this child to be, have to deal with a divorce. So we limped along. And finally, that wonderful therapist said, Melody, our next session, I need to just meet with you alone. And she read the definition of narcissism. And she said, I have worked with men like your husband, some of them for 10, 15 years, and they don't change. So I hear you when you say you don't want another divorce. And also, you need to decide if you want to live like this for the rest of your life. And it took me a while to make that very difficult decision. And I did. And I finally, and that was when I really started to learn what you just described, how to love myself, how to orient, because I was born with my attention on others and then my chaotic, abusive household, family of origin dynamic solidified that my attention for my own safety needed to be on fixing everyone around and making everyone else happy. So I did some deeper work, but it wasn't until about, let's see, 2010 when and by this time I've done all kinds of wonderful courses and trainings and seminars and coaching training and all kinds of wonderful, empowering things. But it wasn't until my first experiences in this priestess lineage and most recently my work with Elisa Starkweather, who I did her in 2013. I did her Women in Power, Initiating the Predator Within. And from her, I learned material that I've integrated now into my priestess, my empowered solar priestess work. Information, not just about codependency and
Right.
sort of that triangle of dysfunction of victim,
Mhm.
perpetrator, rescuer,
Right.
but also looking at the healthy predator and prey cycle and the unhealthy predator and prey. And when I learned that we can predate upon ourselves in
Mhm.
unhealthy ways, it just blew me open. And I was like, every woman needs to understand this. It became really important to me to share because I feel like you do, like there are things we need to know to keep ourselves happy and healthy. And avoiding narcissists is just part of the rule book now, part of what we need to do.
You're that's in the priestess process I went through with you, the empowered solar priestess. That was the one of the most powerful parts of the training. Was the discovering the inner patriarch, and I realized, oh, that's my inner critic. I mean, I knew I've worked with my inner critic for a long time, but getting that piece of it is was really important too for me. Like, wow, that
Yeah.
inner predator, because the inner critic is like that, or that is. And the thing that I've learned, and I'm sure that that in therapy and then in shadow work, that one can transform that, and so that part of ourselves can be transformed. Now that can be transformed, not the narcissist out there, but inside this predator, this inner predator, can be transformed, because the inner critic, as I call it, was it developed in the beginning of our development, like when we're very young. It does it to protect us, to, like, okay, now don't yell, because or don't act this way, because somebody's going to get upset with you. So then it turns out like that. So we're like monitoring ourselves. We're be quiet, be still, be whatever, all as for self-protection. And it just takes on a life of its own if left on it to its own devices, till it becomes this critical voice and this judgmental, and it doesn't allow us to develop self-love, because we often believe, because of fear, that is the true voice within us, and it's not.
Right.
So that there's just a lot one can do to just break the spell of patriarchy that we carry inside of us, to walk this path of recovery. And it's, in so many ways, it is connected to our culture, because we do, and it's wonderful that we see it uh, surfacing, and it seems to be everywhere. uh, and there are some people think that it's like a psychological or mental virus, or that's spreading. And yes, because there's more people on the planet, there is actually a Native American word for it called wetiko. Have you read
Right.
that book? Yeah,
Oh, I do.
wetiko.
I've
You got
got
it
that
on your
book.
shelf. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the but it's the whole thing is that no matter what it is, if we find it or not, it all comes down to our own inner life, and how if we heal ourselves, then we're good. And that we are, and then when we heal ourselves, we work, it helps us then, just our own inner healing helps to heal the world, because we're one less toxically dysfunctional person on the planet.
Right.
Each time we heal ourselves, we're helping the whole collective.
Well, I remember, Susanna, I remember having a conversation with you where I shared. Now, I'm 28 years out from that moment where that therapist said to me, you have to decide if you want to live like this. In other words, with a narcissist for the rest of your life. And uh, I'm 28 years out. And of course, a lot of healing and a lot of learning and growth and expansion. Um, and and I am so grateful, not just for what's happened in the last 28 years, but I am so grateful for the challenges of my early life that set me up for these two abusive marriages because I feel like I am part of the mostly female
Mm-hmm.
woman warrior army of conscious individuals who has emerged from a dominator paradigm where one of you is always one up and the other is one down into a partnership paradigm. I see that my own transformation has rippled out and affected hundreds of other people. Most intensely has affected my children. All of my children have left any organization or relationship that is a one up, one down dominator paradigm. They will not tolerate it.
That's
The fact
understandable.
that I went through what I went through and they saw that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, my youngest son has told me his earliest memory is of his dad hitting me,
Mm.
right? And so when you see that as a child,
Yeah.
there's something that happens. Like he also saw that same dad stand at the pulpit at the church and talk about how much he loved his family. And so there was that hypocrisy. And all of my kids have departed patriarchy. And all of my friends and inner circle, but also all of the women I coach and care for in my circles. And so I feel like we are it's like this woman warrior energy of awakening the self-love within us and the divine feminine within us. So we are no longer participating in business as usual.
That's right. We are not. And I'm hearing and seeing that the young women now are not buying it. They're not doing it. They're saying, you know what, I don't want to get married and have children, like, which is there's nothing wrong with it if it's done with an equal partner.
Right.
That is when, and I, look back on my life and my two marriages and feel, like, okay, well, maybe next life I'll come around and the world will be where it's not a struggle to find
Right.
a partner who wants to be, who's primed and ready and totally gets it. Yeah, it's got to be this. We're on the same level here. We're not top bottom. We're on the same level, and there's just so much of that still in our world. And it's changing, and we're
I read
seeing.
I read a wonderful article, Susanna, last week that young women are no longer willing to invest any time in man keeping,
Yeah, man centering,
man,
right?
male
Man centering.
centering. It's
There's
like,
another word for it too. So there's all these different words, but man centering is what I've heard. I'm not going to man center.
no, no. So
And
I feel
yeah.
like we're really at the cusp of a turning,
Mhm.
of a shift in the collective from patriarchy to partnership.
Right.
And your experience and my experience has just prepared us to
Yeah.
be part of that
Mhm.
turning.
Yeah.
And yes, is this painful while you're going through it? Yes.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't think we should minimize.
Right.
It's not easy. And it is so expansive
Yes, it
when
is.
you have a good guide.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do this interview with you, Susanna, because I think you're a good guide for folks who are going through this.
Thank you. I mean, I do find that I don't even advertise. Well, I do have it on my Psychology Today profile. I don't think it's on my website that I talk about narcissistic abuse recovery. But, the universe just sends the people that you're most trained, whether it's through formal training or life training, to
Right.
work with. And I do want to say one more thing about recovery. It is so much the thing that I've worked with a lot with women is one of the first hardest steps is to go no contact with the narcissist. And 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 that's just part of the process. I mean, I myself, I was in and out, in and out, in and out. I can't even countless times. And so there's no judgment on that, but just to, to know that, to me, what I've seen is very rare for a woman to leave and then that's it. Now, and they don't ever go back and they have no contact. Now, some people can't because they have children,
I had a young child.
right?
I wasn't able to go no
You
contact.
weren't. Yeah, you had to continue to co-parent
Yeah.
or try to.
Yeah. 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 I'm super grateful for everything I learned
Yeah.
in that process because I had never been given permission as a child growing up to have my own private space or to set boundaries in any way.
Yeah.
And so for the first time in my life, I was mid 40s. I had to set boundaries with this person in spite of the fact that we had to have regular contact because we were co-parenting a young child.
Mhm.
So it was a huge learning
It's
growth
very
edge.
hard. I'm sure
Yeah,
it was very hard at first.
yeah,
And some of them will, if they're not toxic and malignant like that malignant, then they will back up a bit and just accept or go with the boundary, even though they'll push and push, but they're the difficult ones are the ones that just will not allow any boundaries. They'll just keep pushing. And yeah, so just know there's so many different scenarios out there for women, ones who are not married, thank goodness, and there's no children involved, thank goodness. And so it's easier for them to end those toxic relationships. But just know that there's always a way. There's always a way out, and there's communities everywhere. There's circles, there's therapists, there's guides, there's coaches, lots of books, lots of uh, wonderful online communities that support each other. Um, and yeah, so this is something, but like you say, I agree with you. I'm thankful for my experiences, as hard and horrible and suffering as they are. And I mean, yeah, I can't lie. I mean, I wish I'd had something right off the bat that was great and wonderful and never, and just kept growing and being equal. And um that would be lovely. And I'm hoping down the road, down the but, you know, but because we learn through our suffering,
yeah.
and we find grace in our suffering, the grace of survival and thriving, and then building and knowing that we persevered and we got ourselves through it with the help of others. Sometimes, though, some people get through without anybody's help, and that's a miracle.
It is.
And it's like, but you really learn, and it's so, to me, I often frame it like you do. It's like, okay, I came in knowing that I'm going to really have to buckle up and struggle, and there's going to be some suffering, and but that's how I'm going to learn how to love myself, and then be um, uh, gather up the strength and the inner security, and oftentimes it's like, and then also it helped me. I drew upon my spirituality and my all of the beyond the veil support that's there, and drew upon that a lot. And it made me go search inward. So this is, it all happens as it happens.
Yeah.
Um,
So let's talk about how folks can get in touch with you.
okay. All right. Well, I think there's going to be a link to my website, which is a way. My phone number's on there. And you can also email me. So you can call, text, email.
Great.
And yeah, my website has the contact, so it'll come to me as an email.
And
Um,
Susannah's website, I love it. It's Now Awake Now, which I really love.
Thank you. And I produced that back in 2011. And yes, and I really got to say, I got a little pissed when this whole anti-woke thing came about, because I was like, I love the word awakening and awaken and be awake, and and I love, and I'm also a teacher of mindfulness meditation and mindfulness practice. So where do we awake? I gotta just say this quote. It's quote the it's um it's given to the Buddha, that who said this. So we'll, but who knows? But it's so beautiful. It's there's only one moment in time to awaken. That moment is now.
Mm,
So that's why it's now, awake now.
I love that. It's so beautiful. And just, it's a visual treat to open your website. It's so
Thank
visually beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Susannah. I really appreciate you being willing to come and talk about your own experience and share what to look for and what to do if you feel like you're in this situation. And women, if you feel like you need support in getting yourself out of a narcissist relationship, Susannah is a good guide.
Yeah, please. I'd love to help. Thank you, Melody.
Oh,
So
thank you.
much gratitude to you for everything.